looking all over the place.
Okay, I'm being asked if recording is okay.
I think we're live.
Yes.
We are live. You ready to go?
Perfect. Right. Go. So thank you everyone at home, in your office, those of us in Zoom together or on Facebook Live. This is your crazy energetic lunch hour conversation around important small business topics. And today I'm super excited to talk about imposter syndrome because it's the most amazingness, powerful, paralyzing, like all the things there is. So we're going to talk about strategies and some really interesting perspectives on what imposter syndrome is and isn't. So would you like to introduce yourself, our fabulous famous guest?
Famous. No.
Me.
I'm Bibigi, Haile. I'm a career management and personal branding coach. I'm in Montreal, Canada. And I have lots of things I could say, but I'd like to actually introduce myself or present myself by talking about my own imposter syndrome. So before we came on live, I scrambled. I have given this talk and I have done the research and I've observed myself and I know what I'm talking about. But before we came on, I scrambled. Oh my God, I haven't reviewed the notes. Oh my God, did I check my PowerPoint? What did Valerie Young say about this again? What if somebody asks a question? Everybody must have read Valerie Young. This is the spin. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. We're planning on sharing what just happened here. So I'm teaching this stuff and researching this stuff because I'm like my own little lab rat. It is something that we all live with, and as entrepreneurs, it can get pretty intense.
Yeah, it is. Do you mind just diving right in then and tell us what the definition or what imposter syndrome is?
Yeah. So this was coined in the 70s. I think it was 78 or 75. I can't remember. It was two women researchers who did a study on high achieving women and the way that they felt about their success. And what they realized is that there was a sort of error of attribution. So high achieving, successful people, and I really want everybody listening, myself included, to put air quotes around successful because it really depends on what it is that these people are doing. But these high achieving women were feeling like they were frauds. And they were feeling like they had no idea what was going on, and that at some point somebody was going to realize that. And but there's something very particular about it because you and I had talked about this. A lot of the times people are going to confuse imposter syndrome and self-confidence. So they're going to say, well, I'm feeling self-doubt, I'm feeling like I'm not going to be able to do this. It's different. Self-doubt and self-confidence is about ability. You are doubting your ability to do something. Imposter syndrome, you are actually doing the thing. You're just doubting your competence to do the thing. You're thinking, everybody thinks that I know what's going on, but I sort of half-assed my way through this and someone's going to find out. And there is no amount of repetition of you succeeding at that task that is going to convince you that somebody won't realize that you're just skidding through and that you have no idea what's going on. So there really is a difference. And what it does is it creates this sort of internal chatter, this constant internal chatter that you're not actually present to what's going on because you are waiting for that next question. Like if you ask me a question right now that I do not know how to answer, I'll be like, see, I have no idea what I'm talking about. And she just outed me in front of millions of people on Facebook. And so that internal chatter that creates anxiety and stress, and has no tangible proof because the success is there. You do the work, but you feel like the reason you succeeded at this work has nothing to do with your competence.
I feel like you're like, oh, I get this huge rush of like, yes, when you just mentioned, oh, she just outed me. And it's immediately I was like, yeah, and it's so shameful and there's humiliation and it changes how we even present ourselves, and it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle because we present differently when we're feeling shame or humiliation versus just being able to say, you know, that's a really good question, I'll get back to you.
100%. 100%. And so the fact that we present different, it's sort of like a self-perpetuating cycle, right? Like we'll be in a meeting or we'll be somewhere and we're always waiting for the shoe to drop, that question that we don't know how to answer, that moment where somebody's going to make us feel like an idiot, or we're going to feel like an idiot and associate it to the way somebody looked at us. So we're always in a hyper-vigilant mode. Like, when is that shoe going to drop, versus sitting in our expertise, in our experience, in our knowledge. And one of the things that's interesting is that, so I'm a mom. I feel zero imposter syndrome as a mom. Some people may, but I feel zero. I have complete, like, I don't doubt, even when people are looking at me like, really? Did that with your kid? And I'm like, yeah, so. I don't have that same thing in certain spheres of my professional life. And so in my professional life, I'll arrive in spaces where I will take for granted that people will know better than me. And so I will be hyper vigilant at a look, at a raised eyebrow, a raised eyebrow that, I wonder what she's talking about. That's so interesting. I'm thinking, oh my God, they just realized that. So it's that interaction with the world that is in hypervigilance and stress mode constantly. And so again, just to go back to self-confidence is something that can be remedied through experience. It really can. Like, you've done something once, well, you do it a second time, and now you're like, your confidence increases, and you're like, okay, you know what? I got this. Imposter syndrome, you're doing that thing really well. You're just attributing it to the wrong thing.
Oh, that's amazing. One thing that we talk about with business coaching clients a lot. I'm Lacey, by the way. I own Full Bodied Health, and I'm one of the wise business coaches along with Barb and Sarisa. And one thing that the three of us are constantly talking about, as do you have clients who talk about this as well, is attributing something or taking credit or giving credit where it isn't due. And it happens so often between the three of us and our clients of, no, you did this amazing thing, so why are you giving that credit away? Or my favorite, why are you dismissing that? You just said you did X, Y, and Z. I know for a fact not everyone can do that, and you just said it was no big deal. What's up with that? And I think we've said, you and I were talking earlier, and you said when something comes easy or naturally to us, it's hard to see the value in that. And do you mind sharing with others what you were sharing with me?
Yeah, and this is a big trap for entrepreneurs, because a lot of the times there are a number of reasons why we would go into business for ourselves. One of those reasons is that we have something that we're passionate about. We've been doing it since we were a kid. We didn't realize it, but at some point we're like, you know what? I do not want to do the 9-to-5 grind. I want to put this out there in the world. One of the things with putting it out there in the world is it's not hard for you. It's just that thing. It's you. And so it's not hard. And because it's not hard, you diminish its value. You're like, anybody can do this. No, not anybody can do this. I have a capacity to synthesize information. Like, it's a superpower. I don't need, like, I can read diagonally and I'll make arrows and boxes on a paper, and I just synthesize information. And for the longest time, the message that I told myself was, I am always in the superficial level. I never dive deep into things because I don't need to spend hours reading. I get it fast. And I've had that since I was a child. But the message that I send myself is, it can't be that easy. And really, I don't know how many people we have listening to us, but if there's one thing I would really like people to take, especially business owners, it can be that easy. It's not easy for everybody. It's easy for you, and that's okay.
I love that you use the words, the message I told myself, because a lot of whether it's my nutrition clients or business clients, the business or nutrition isn't actually the hard part. It's that emotional part. It's the messages we tell ourselves about ourselves that get in the way. And it's real and it's powerful. And there's always a source behind that, whether it was a traumatic life event, something that we learned from someone else. Can you tell us a little bit about the roots or where imposter syndrome can come from?
Yeah, so there are a number of things. Entrepreneurs, students, people who are the only in a space will often struggle with it more than others. And it's interesting because when we say representation matters, this is one of those where representation matters, because the self-credibility, the self-talk will be matched by what you're seeing. So another reason that entrepreneurs will feel imposter syndrome more than others is because they're constantly creating something that is new and putting it out in the world. It can be an idea, it can be a product, it can be, when you have a job, you have a you have a monthly, quarterly, biannually evaluation. Somebody's going to give you a bunch of criteria that will say, this means you're good, this means you're not good, this means you're really out of the door. And we can talk about whether that's good or bad, that evaluation system, but what it does give you is an anchor. You can sort of hook onto that and say, I don't have to decide whether I'm good or I'm not good. Somebody's going to tell me with that checklist of theirs. As an entrepreneur, you're constantly putting things out in the world, right, that are new. And you're by yourself with your thoughts. And you're like, how? I know I'm good at this, but I'm not getting any validation from anybody. There's nobody except me. And it's even worse for solopreneurs. For people who are the only in the room, the only woman, the only gay person, the only anything, the only Black person, it's a question of validating your experience, validating the chatter that's in your head versus what you're seeing in front of you. You're thinking everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows something that I don't know. And you have no place to deposit that thought. And I just want to go on a tangent here, and I might go on a lot of tangent. This is
Go for it.
tangents. Workplace culture is really a problem, right? Like, we don't allow doubts. We don't allow people saying, I don't know. We don't allow people saying, I'm not sure. And so what people do in lieu of saying all of that is that they keep quiet. And when you keep quiet, so many things are stifled. One, you're hiding the suffering of everybody around that table. But two, you're also keeping innovation from happening. You're also keeping like creativity from happening. Like, if you already know the answer, then there is no innovation. But it is somebody who throws something half-ass out there, and then somebody else says, hey, that is so interesting, let's build on that. But in a culture where doubt is not permitted, not knowing is not permitted, and everybody is hiding behind their shame, you're not going to get any of that. You're not going to get any of the growth and the safe space, because it takes a safe space to show yourself fully. You're not going to get that in a culture that's, what are you talking about? No, this doesn't work. Forget that. Like, I wish you wouldn't bring stuff that you hadn't done the research for. Next, moving on, and then you're done. It's not just the person who got talked to like that. Everybody else around the table is now thinking, okay, I'm going to shut up. For women, it's especially problematic because we are bringing to our imposter syndrome generations of baggage. We are wired to believe that chatter. That's the difference with men. They'll feel it. Men and women feel imposter syndrome the same thing. Women come into it with the wiring of, yeah, I know that, maybe I'm not yet competent enough, or maybe there's not enough that I need, that there is not, I don't have enough information. So yeah, I'll stop the soapbox now.
No, I could listen to you all day. It's interesting that that difference between men and women, and basically going back to how we're wired. I just read, so I'm hiring and I'm interviewing for Full Bodied Health, and I noticed the way that women interview compared to the guys is completely different. And what's even more interesting is we did blind hiring, and I still don't know for sure. I'm going by tone of voice, but it's down the middle. And it's like, wow. So what is going on over in this place that sent me these resumes? And I think you're right. It is a generational thing. And I also read this really interesting statistic that started backing and connecting some dots for me that I think you're getting to is when men typically see a job description or requirements, they talk about, I have most of them, so I'll apply.
How many soapboxes do you have time for today?
Right. And women will look at it like, oh, I don't know how to do all of those, so I'll wait until I do. And it's interesting how that shows up and how we present in the job. But then with imposter syndrome as well, because there is that part of perpetuating cycle of, if we want to keep moving forward, we need to do so in a way that's very counterintuitive to many of us and how we were raised. And it really sets us up for a heck of a time. See, I caught myself, Carolyn, a heck of a time to do so in a healthful way.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Harvard Business Review, typically a publication that I enjoy because it makes me think, and I really appreciate anything that can make me think in a way that I'm not already thinking. They put out an article you and I both read, and it was about telling women, like, what was it? Stop telling women that it's imposter syndrome or something like that.
Stop telling women that they have imposter syndrome.
Yeah. So it definitely is a different perspective. It definitely made me think, and I definitely had a visceral reaction to it. And I wasn't sure where my visceral reaction was coming from, mainly in my stomach and my chest, until I talked to you this morning. Bibigi, would you mind sharing your take on the article in like 5 minutes or less? Because we can talk all day.
I was trying to work. So I kept receiving this article in my inbox, kept receiving it in my DMs, like, hey, have you seen this? And literally I felt like nails on a chalkboard. So I also like Harvard Business Review, but the first spontaneous, and I'm going to say it like it is, even though I'm live on Facebook, the spontaneous feeling that I had was, why is Harvard Business Review putting out an article on the impact of imposter syndrome on diversity? Is it because it's a sign of the times? Like all of a sudden, Harvard Business Review has an opinion. But this, I would like to couch. Please don't take it as a soundbite. Don't make it end in any news. This was my thought process as, okay, there's something interesting there, but like, when did you become the expert on this subject? And when my annoyance came down a little bit and I read the article, I then got even more pissed off. And the reason is what the article says, and it's actually true. The article talks about the systemic reasons behind imposter syndrome and the fact that, we are comparing women to standards that they didn't create and that there's no way that they can hit against. But the conclusion of the article is what is needed is systemic change. No one is against virtue. I agree. We all agree. What is needed is systemic change for absolutely everything. But if I tell you, Lacey, so don't worry about what you're feeling. You're not feeling this thing that you're feeling. It's actually the system that sucks. So have a seat, have a glass of wine, chill out. We're going to take another couple of 100 years and we're going to change the system and we'll be right back so that you can have a fantastic life in corporate or anywhere else, as was always your right. How do you feel about that?
I was kind of fine until you told me to take a seat. And I was like, oh, I have red hair for a reason. We don't take seats.
Exactly. It's like, so this article is saying, You're not feeling that thing that you're feeling that's keeping you immobilized, that's making you, price yourself so much under what you could be pricing yourself, that's making you afraid of showing up on a Facebook Live. You're not feeling all of those things. We got you. Us revolutionaries, we got you. Versus what you're feeling is absolutely real. It's keeps you from moving forward. It creates anxiety. It's making you leave tens of thousands of dollars on the table. It's impacting our organizations. We need to talk about it. And hey, let's also change the system.
Right.
It is gaslighting.
Yeah, it had a very dismissive feel to it. I'm sure the intent was different, and execution lacked a little bit, but it very much felt like, just stop. Like, oh, well, done. Thank you for that. I won't feel it ever again. You're right.
And thank you for reframing that. I think I do. You're right. The intention and, the authors know what they're talking about, and they are right. The research that they did. But like, I had made a LinkedIn post about this. Like, for HBR, what I would say is the title should be "Stop Telling Women That What They're Feeling Is Not Real."
Mm-hmm.
What they're feeling is real. And we do need systemic change, but we also need tools and strategies and way of understanding ourselves that allow us to move forward in an empowered way in our own lives without somebody having to fix us.
Right. Which could be a whole nother tangent between the two of us. We just need to have coffee or a drink sometime. Like, it's happening. I will email you after that.
Tangent hour.
And set up a virtual coffee date or tea or wine.
Wine. Yeah.
Okay. And so we know what's going on. We feel it. We know it's holding us back. It's anxiety producing. It's cutting into our bottom line, our finances, how we present ourselves, how we charge people as entrepreneurs. It's pricing is one of the biggest stumbling blocks for service providers, especially those of us who don't have a product, because all of a sudden what we are serving or providing gets tangled with who we are. And imposter syndrome really holds that back. So what are some ways that you are familiar with or have come up or have done the research on to really start working through the imposter syndrome and not fixing ourselves because we're not broken, but allowing ourselves to feel what we need to, but yet being productive at the same time?
Yeah. Lacey, will you allow me to take maybe a few minutes to actually talk about some of the behaviors that we can recognize in ourselves when we're feeling imposter syndrome?
Bibigi, you can do whatever you would like because I'm absolutely in awe. Go for it.
And then I'll move on to what we can do to work through it. But I'd like to list some of the behaviors. And I'm pretty sure, I wish I could see people, but like when I give this presentation, I ask people to tell me in the chat what they're thinking. And everybody's like, oh my God. Number one, and please nod your head if you do this, is procrastination. We don't think that procrastination is linked to imposter syndrome, but if you would see me circle my desk like a lion when there is something that I need to deliver for a client. Another one, and let me just go through my list here. I was telling you I had my list. I don't want to forget any.
We do have someone in the chat box nodding vigorously.
Nod vigorous. Thank you. Thank you. See, that's what I need to see because that is exactly what happens every time. Procrastination, over preparing. Try combining those two. Procrastination, over preparing, maintaining a low of ever-changing profile. And by the way, I'll give you the resources where I found this. So Valerie Young has written extensively about this. And there's another woman out of the UK called Claire Hosa, who's written a lot of interesting stuff also. But let's talk about maintaining a low of ever-changing profile. I know we have entrepreneurs listening. This is the business model change. This is like dodging a bullet, right? Like you have the imposter syndrome bullet looking for you. And the way to dodge it is like, oh, look, I'm going here. Oh, look, I'm going. We also might call it shiny object syndrome, but we're just sort of going in different. The thing is, if you don't stop in one place, Like you can't be hit or judged by anybody. Until you've tried to deliver the product, nobody can say, she's not as good as we thought. Same thing if you're a student. That PhD that we keep putting off. You know, we're changing the subject, we're changing the professor, we're taking a year sabbatical. So by the way, academia is the worst for imposter syndrome. So procrastination, maintaining a low of ever changing profile, self-sabotage. So if you have not read this book, Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap, everybody has to read it. It has to be required reading for entrepreneurs. If you've heard of the notion of the zone of genius, it comes from there. But what is not talked about is the notion of the upper limit.
One more time, Bibigi?
Yeah, it's The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. So he talks about the upper limit, and the upper limit is literally self-sabotage. You get to a really good place in your life, and then you just don't wake up for that interview.
I'm only chuckling because we've all done that at some point.
Well, we've all done it. We've all done it. And recognizing it really helps. Another one, I want to share two others. Paralysis, the difference between paralysis and procrastination. And this is important in the workplace. Procrastination, you get started, but you're sort of pushing through it. Paralysis, you're not doing anything and you're lying about it. You are stuck in this place of fear and you can't get started, but you're telling your boss or you're telling your partners, I got this. And you're not saying, I have no idea how to get started. And then people pleasing. People pleasing comes from using your charm and your charisma to dodge that bullet again, to dodge the judgment bullet. So I just wanted to give an overview because it's really helpful to sort of have something to latch onto, right? It's not just that feeling, that physical feeling. It's also the behaviors that we have that we can be like, look at that. I have been circling this deliverable for 1 week. What is going on? Okay, what can we do? I am going to start by apologizing for how simple this is, but it's so important. Self-awareness. You have to get radically self-aware. You cannot do radical self-awareness if you are not willing to be radically self-compassionate, because otherwise it's an exercise in judgment. What I'm proposing is an exercise in observation. Here's why. When you get imposter syndrome, the way that it shows up is it shows up in an embodied way. It shows up in your body. You feel it somewhere. And between the time that you feel it, you get triggered by something and you feel that, and then you act. The way to change the action, which is usually what is problematic, right? We're upset about the action, is to increase the time between the reaction and the action. And the only way to do that is to understand the reaction and the trigger. And the only way to do that is to see it, understand it, and not judge it. Because the minute where you say, oh, I'm such an idiot, you are still in that triggered feeling.
Yep.
So it's to sort of have your imposter syndrome next to you and be like, look at that thing. I feel it here. I mean, it's right here in the chest. Look at that. Something's going on. And then sort of scanning your environment for what is going on. So that's a really big piece. It takes time and you have to trust that it works. I promise, I'll give you your money back. So that's one piece. Another piece is to think differently about competence. And here I'd like to list, there are a few that I would like to describe to you, because this was an aha moment for me. And this is really, really something that women struggle with. So let me throw out some sentences. And I see we're 4 in the chat. I would love to get yes, that's me. I feel competent when everything is done perfectly. I feel confident when I don't need to put any effort in the thing that I'm doing. It comes really easily. I feel confident when I know everything there is to know about that subject. I feel confident when I'm able to do everything myself. And I feel confident when I'm able to do all the things. So for the moms, that one is a big one. I can do all the things. And you're like, I have to tell you stories, but one of all the things is I remember I was talking to my coach. It was 9:00 at night. I had received a text from the school teacher saying, we have like cookies day tomorrow and my son is allergic. So I had to send my own cookies. So I have my coach like this, and the oven is beeping and I'm taking out the cookies and I'm just trying to make sure that my child is not coming. And he's like, you're doing all the things. And I'm like, I am doing. Those ways of thinking about competence, if we don't show up in that way for ourselves, we get imposter syndrome because we're like, I'm not that competent because I can't do it all myself and I need to ask help. I'm not that competent because I don't know everything that there is to know about this subject. I forgot this sentence here. Oh my God. I'm not that competent because this is not perfect. And so changing the way you think about competence is really a first way to reframe your circumstances, to reframe what is going on. And the last one, there are quite a few others, and I'll offer maybe a couple of quick fixes, but the last one I want to talk about is getting to know your brain. And this I spoke about at the beginning when I said to you that things are easy. Putting things together is easy for me. Taking a lot of information and then bringing it into something that makes sense is easy for me. I spent so long thinking that that was a flaw and thinking that that was because I liked shortcuts and I was lazy. And so I was always afraid that somebody would have read until page 233 and ask me about page 233 when I had only read until page 50. So getting to understand how my brain works and to be like, it's okay. It's actually okay. That's how I function and it's fine. Makes a huge difference in the way we show up in the world.
It does. There is, for me, a big piece of the puzzle clicked into place when I hired a trauma therapist and started realizing these old past wounds were impacting the way I saw my own value.
Yeah.
And how I saw value. Yeah. And needing to be 100% validated outside and needing to do all the things by myself because that was what was safe, but that was also like hustling for my worth and value. Yeah. And so if something on the to-do list didn't get done, or if I dropped the ball on something, or like the minute you can't answer the phone and the second phone call and the cookies and the kids in the back, plus the dog's barking, so you can't hear anything at that point, would lose all concept of it. And it was really interesting to see how that was even taken off the table once realizing value isn't task oriented. It's just simply for existing as a human.
Yeah.
So those are, when you were talking about radically self-aware and doing it from a place of radical self-compassion, so that you're not in that judgment space. It's like, oh my gosh, we were just talking about this. It's so important. If you wouldn't say it to someone else, why the heck do we say it to ourselves?
Really. And you bringing up trauma is really important. We think trauma is a car accident, or trauma is war, or trauma is, all of those are trauma. But being yelled at in your workplace is trauma. Getting fired is trauma. Getting, afraid for someone in your life is trauma. And trauma lives in your body. Like the number of books I have here for trauma, just to understand my mind and my body, because that's where it lives. It's not a cognitive process. It really is. It never gets here. It's all happening in places where we have, and that's why I talk about triggers and the time for reaction, right?
Yep. Yeah, you were hitting it. There's an amazing book. I'm sure you own it. The Body Keeps the Score. Yeah, I knew it. That really started putting some of those pieces together, knowing already our thoughts have frequencies and can be measured. They kick off the hormones in our brain, which then give us feelings such as when we're angry, sometimes we get heated, our heart races, we feel a certain way, we start sweating. It's all connected.
Yeah.
But no one talks about that connection with trauma and how we present ourselves or view ourselves or talk to ourselves. And definitely no one's talking about how we talk to ourselves and perceive ourselves is directly related to imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Yeah. I like all the work. So the way that I work is I test stuff on myself and then I talk about them. That's really but I have come to realize that most of the work that I do on myself is around understanding how things come up in my body, understanding what are thoughts, what is like, I have a paper here that says, is this a feeling or a fact? And by the way, one of the hacks for imposter syndrome, when things are coming up, is to validate the facts. Oh my God. Oh my God. You're going in circles. Are you able to do the work? Have you been hired as the new, managing the marketing director? Have you been hired? Yeah. So I used to think people would give me contracts and it was like, they've got to be stupid. I have no idea what they're doing. I would actually devalue their intelligence because they valued mine.
Mm-hmm.
It really is something where, I forgot where I was going with that. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's, I used to do something very similar, but I would switch it to, if I was hired, I'll just borrow their confidence.
That is good. I like
and there's one person who started it, Brad Dufresne. I have to tag him in this. He was my managing director. And I had no undergrad degree. I had nothing from finances. And he hired me to be a financial advisor, which meant I had to pass the national exams, the Series 6 and 63 LNH, with no foundation. And I later found out that he had told the hiring person, just watch, she'll show everyone. And I heard that, I think it was month 2 of being hired, when I was like walking down the hall, like crying. It's not the mascara, like the whole thing, when I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I got here. And she's like, just so you know, this is what our managing director thinks. And that's why you were hired. And I stopped and took a second. And you're right, Bibigi. It was like, I passed this exam while other people with undergrads in finances can't pass it. So I'll just keep borrowing his confidence that I can figure this piece out, or I can do this, or ask for help over here.
I love that. I love this idea of borrowing confidence. I really do.
Stole it from Brad Dufresne.
Well, nothing is ever new. We're just taking concepts and repackaging them.
Yeah, it's amazing, the people that come in our lives that teach us lessons that stick. I mean, I still work on that. I loved hearing the different ways that imposter syndrome shows up, because I'm realizing when you were naming them, I'm like, that's me. It's interesting to see how far I've come, but how much more I can go at the same time. Be like, oh, okay, so I don't have to work it this way. How has it shown up, if you don't mind sharing, in your life a little bit, and what have you done to tweak it?
It's shown
Sorry.
I like stories. Let me tell you another story of how it's shown up in my life. I had a coaching client. We did an intensive session. So I think it was 4 hours, delivered what we needed to deliver. And then I sent but we did this. The last deliverable came after a month because I was sick during the holidays. And I felt so bad. I was like, I'm letting him down. And it was just really, I was not having fun. I delivered it, sent him a form, a feedback form, and did not come back to look at that form for 3 days because I was like hyperventilating. And when I opened the form, It was just glowing reviews and telling me you should take this product and offer it to the specific clientele. They would really need it. I didn't even take long to read. I read it diagonally and then I closed it. And this is an example of imposter syndrome. I wish I had had the time to show you like the drawing of what happened. So instead of saying, Pat, look at you and your bad self, I was like, he doesn't want to be mean. He doesn't want me to feel bad because I was sick, and that is why he's telling me that, this was good. And the problem with being a coach in this space is I'm constantly in a meta space, right? So like I'm living this and then I'm like here saying, really interesting, and taking notes that I can teach. It's really annoying. But that was an example of how it came up in my life. And the way I work around it is to talk about it a lot and to tell people so that seeing how it's validated in other people's experiences and that I'm not the only one, it really breaks the mystery and they're like, oh my God. The other way is to just observe what's going on with me without engaging. That meta thing that I said was annoying, it's also really helpful because I'm not that feeling. I'm going through it, but I'm also like, this is interesting. You spent an entire morning with this person. It changed so much for them. They were able to then go and do this, but you still think it wasn't enough. So the distance really helps. Another way that I have come to realize, and this I'm throwing out there because this is a very new thought for me that I'm still researching and trying to model or make sense of. But Claire Hossa talks about imposter syndrome being an issue of identity. And I was like, I don't understand what you're talking about. But one day I had a flash. When I started my career, I was an administrative assistant. And then I pushed to become a project coordinator. And then I pushed, but I always felt so insecure as an administrative assistant that the job wasn't worthy enough, that my parents were going to find that I wasn't doing anything with my life. And plus, I'm not someone who's organized. Like I'm not the person who can manage. So I was failing at this. So the eyes that are looking at my successes today and my capacity today are the eyes of that woman who was feeling like she was not enough. And so that's the discrepancy. There is a huge gap in time, but there isn't a separation of the identities. I'm still thinking with her fears or her, I haven't reassured her that she has moved to something else and that in this space we're good. I'm doing something that I'm good at and that I love. So that's what I'm exploring these days, the notion of identity. Very concretely, who is the voice who is feeling imposter syndrome? Who's the woman who's feeling imposter syndrome?
It's so crazy that you bring that up because this is a big topic with our nutrition clients. When you make big life changes, viewing those changes and viewing self as this person who has learned new skills and new tools and isn't the person necessarily that was 6 months or a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
But that identity sticks. That's the hard part.
It does stick. So
man, okay, we're definitely having a good time personally. We need to talk about all of this. So it's gonna have to be a series.
So the amount of time I remember doing a webinar, I keep getting new ideas, right? And then I just like add it to my deck. And so I did a webinar. Usually it's 90 minutes. This time by 2 hours, I was not done. And I was just apologizing. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but there's more. You have to stop me at some point and be like, okay, we're good. Thank you.
No, that's great. It's my favorite type of commercial. And wait, there's more. Right. All right. Tell me what else? What else is next? I love that you had also talked about a safe space because we had talked about that earlier and we need to start wrapping up, but how that culture now isn't, I think people are looking for that authenticity because it doesn't really exist a lot. Like, it's kind of this rare thing that we see when someone actually is vulnerable or authentic in a public space, which, like you said, lends to this really interesting, not the most helpful business culture, whether it's corporate or as entrepreneurs, that the safe space to be able to say, I am struggling right now. I'm captain of the struggle bus. We are going nowhere quick.
Yeah.
It
And
doesn't
says it.
really exist. We were talking about that earlier.
I'm a podcast addict. I listen to a lot of podcasts and usually business podcasts. And then I sign up for people's newsletters and my inboxes. Today, I deleted 3 newsletters and I requested to be taken off. And here's why. It was talking about how I could like make $1 million by doing this or that, and I was reading this and I'm like, I get it. But I think that at this point, I've used a lot of techniques, and my business problems are not technique based. And this is not making me feel good. And I just took it off. This is making me compare. This is making me feel like, why is it not succeeding for me? And I find that there's a lot of that versus giving you information and validating that you can take that information and work it through for yourself, but saying, look at me, I went from 0 to 1 million. And if you apply the same thing, you're going to go to from 0 to 1 million. And all of our energy, our creative energy, our zone of genius is dampened by saying, but she's able to do this. Why am I not able to do this?
I think you hit the nail on the head earlier with the imposter syndrome traits. Is even if we follow every single step perfectly, if we don't do that inner work of figuring out what the heck is holding us back and where our own mindset is really getting in the way, it's so much easier to follow someone else's steps than to do our work.
100%.
And then we self-sabotage it anyway, and we could get all the things and not show up or not prepare or whatever the case may be. It's that worked for you, but you didn't follow these steps in a vacuum. You were also doing something else.
100%. So I think for me, what I'm doing is I'm slowing things down. I'm just slowing things down for myself. I'm taking out a lot of things just so that I can build from a place of I'm competent. I'm enough. I'm where I need to be.
Bibigi, we have a couple questions. The first one, my imposter syndrome is bolstered by one of the most important people in my life saying some of the things I hear in my mind. I cannot cut this person out or limit them. Do you have any techniques to help me bounce back after they say these things to me? Before you jump in, can I say something, Bibigi?
Please.
I was in a very, very similar situation where the person I was supposed to be able to trust the most and lived with took the things, my biggest fears in my head, and would repeat them back to me verbally. And one thing that really, really helped in my circumstance was hiring that trauma therapist, because I was needing outside validation. So everything he said was very personal. And over the course of a couple months, which was way sooner than I thought it was going to be, the same things can be said and have been said. They don't hit the way they used to, because there's that healing on my end where I'm like, this isn't even personal, and that's not my truth, and that's not even accurate. That says everything about you projecting onto me. So on my end, like, dude, I just want to hug you, because I've been there, and it is one of the most disheartening places to be. So I'm always a big proponent in that circumstance of getting outside help to heal what's going on underneath there. BBG, do you have additions?
Exactly the same thing as you, Lacey. My coach recently said these words to me for very, very hard circumstances where I was doubting everything about me because I was getting the reflection that what I was doing, feeling wasn't right. He said, it's gaslighting. Nobody had said to me that the way I was showing up and being told wasn't okay is gaslighting. And when he said that, I was just like, it is. It is. So get outside help.
Michelle Horton on Facebook, you're going to start making me tear up. I really appreciate your comments, and I don't know, I feel like we're all here for a reason. So thank you for appreciating that. BBG, you have another one. Can you recommend a few podcasts that you find particularly beneficial? If you're anything like me, it's like, here's the notebook of podcasts.
It's a problem. It's a problem. But yes, I actually discovered one recently that I love to bits. Let me just give you her name. I never remember. Yes, it's The Driven Woman by Diane Wingert, Wingert. That one is amazing. Another one that's amazing is Brooke Castillo, the Life Coach School podcast, in terms of reframing. She's really, really good. And this I'm going to throw out there like a wrench, but a lot of entrepreneurs might be struggling with ADHD. There is something related between ADHD and going out and doing your own thing. And there's also a whole conversation around the impact on imposter syndrome. And even if you don't have it or you don't suspect it, I would recommend checking out Tracy Otsuka's ADHD for Smart Ass Women.
I love that.
Yeah, she's an entrepreneur, and it really it just opens up like certain, I believe, information just will change your life. And this sort of gives you information you need to manage things. So I could go on for days, but those.
I would love to add one as well, actually a specific episode. How I Built This is an NPR by Guy Raz. And he basically interviews the top movers and shakers and how they built it. So for example, the guy who founded Lululemon, Crate and Barrel, Kate Spade was on there. Laura Barr, I could go on and on. M. Night Shyamalan, he's known for The Village, Signs, The Sixth Sense. He's the writer and director. He specifically talks about imposter syndrome on his episode of How I Built This. And it was the most powerful episode, which is saying something to all of them. But hearing these people who are grossing billions of dollars still talk about, I walk in the room and I'm terrified that they will find out. This is the day it comes crashing down because they're going to find out.
No.
Was so humbling yet inspiring, because where one person can say, oh, I'll never get over this, it's kind of like, you don't have to.
We're all in it together.
Yeah. Oh. I loved that. So BBG, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day to sit with my goofy ass this morning at 8 to figure stuff out, and then come here like a boss and throw it down for an hour with me. I really, really greatly appreciate you. Thank you for showing up.
You targeted that subject that I could just like, somebody bring her back, but thank you. I love this conversation.
I would love, heads up, Megan and Carolyn, to do a second part to this, because it's so freaking important and we barely scratched the surface.
I agree.
So this is the first time I forgot to do a commercial in the middle because I was so caught up, BBG, with what you're saying. But for those of you out there who are considering or have an idea or have been in business for 20 years, if you're interested in business coaching, it is free to you guys thanks to generous grants and donations. The link will be put in the comments of Facebook and here. So BBG, any last parting words you'd like to say?
Yes. Because 70% of people struggle with this, every time you go into a room, do the math. Do the math real quick about how many people in that room are struggling like you are. So if there are 10 people, there are 7 who are having imposter syndrome like you. That's it.
We're all in it together.
We're all in it together.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya. Thanks, Joni.
Thank you, everybody.